I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. Hello and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James. And you know, every day I give thanks that I get to do this work. I get to introduce you to beautiful, powerful women who have said yes to their lives and are in great service. What I love about that is I really believe this is the time on the planet that women are emerging, bringing love and nurturing and care to the planet in powerful ways. And they want to show others how to do the same, so they're game changers. What I love about that is when I was growing up, I didn't have those kind of models, so I kind of muddled through my life. And so I'm so honored to be able to share these women with you, women from all over the world, all backgrounds, all cultures, all practices. And you get to just get the beautiful tidbits that they give that can take you to another level. So thank you so much for being here. We're on every week. We're on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker, Amazon, YouTube video. Look for Women Awakening with Cynthia James. You can also go to my website, cynthiajames.net, where we talk about my programs. There's gifts for you, and you can sign up for my newsletter. I have a new friend I want to introduce you to today. Her name is Elaine Lankford. She's the founder of She Steps Forward Ministries, but it's now branded as She Steps Forward Coaching. And She Steps Forward Coaching is helping to launch confident, successful Christian female entrepreneurs with targeted strategic plans so they can build sustainable businesses, ministries, and nonprofits. She's also the founder and executive director of She Steps Forward International. And that's a nonprofit working to equip both American and African women to lead businesses, ministries, and nonprofits and positively impact their communities. Elaine, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to share this time with you.
Well, I want to just start with how you were brought up and where you came from. You know, most people look at successful people and they think, well, they just hopped over there. But I don't think most of us came on the planet thinking we're going to do what we do today. So how did you grow up?
So in a nutshell, I grew up in a small Christian home. For the most part, had a unruffled, feathered life all the way up until I got into nursing, and I had a brilliant nursing career for about 16 years. And really part of my story that I tell people is that in 2008, my world shifted. So I had gone along in life, had done very well, was very successful in what I was doing, had worked my way to a nurse practitioner, was in the practice of pain management, which most people know is still a little controversial to this day. And unfortunately, due to some circumstances that were completely out of my control, had my nursing career kind of suddenly ended. And in the midst of that trial, I also lost my father. And several months later, my husband at 47 was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Now, he's all good right now, but you can imagine as someone who was going along in life and everything was going well, to all of a sudden everything was not. Having that moment, that trajectory changing moment, is what really defines what I do now. It was a shift. It was a moment of transformation, and it was a moment of me reaching deep within my faith, figuring out my identity, and emerging from that with a beautiful call in my life that I'm super grateful for today.
Well, that's beautiful. And I want to, a lot of times we have coaches and teachers come on and they talk to the women about finding your niche. Who is your audience? And so, how did you find your niche? How did you know that this was who I was to target to support?
What's really funny is in all that tragedy that I went through, a 5-year period of 2008, 2013, I discovered that it was time to tell my story. And so I ended up self-publishing a book, and that kind of started my entrepreneurial journey, because once you write, you have to publish. you have to market, you have to speak, you have to get out there in order for your story to be shared. And so what I found is along the way is that I, like you, didn't have the perfect person to stand in my corner and kind of guide me on that. And so I stumbled my way through, got there. God intentionally expanded my horizons, and so in inventing a conference I call She Steps Forward, knowing that I wanted to push more women out to share their stories, to find their path in life, their real purpose. I actually had someone come from Kenya to that very first conference, which really expanded what we were doing. And we ended up in Kenya the next year doing the exact same conference. And so here I am now creating a nonprofit because of the work we want to do in Kenya. And so I really feel like God has molded me along the way, giving me for-profit experience, parachurch ministry experience, and now nonprofit experience so that I could turn around and pull up the next woman who needs to be that world changer that we all need.
Well, that is so beautiful. So, you know, since this wasn't the plan, tell me, what, as a faith-based business, how did you find clients? And how did you vet them to make sure that they were right for you?
So what I am finding is as I look in the world of church, and I mean that as big church world, there's a lot of women out there that are just wanting to use their talents and skills, but not finding it fitting completely within the four walls of the church. And as I have more and more conversations, I'm finding that these women are really anxious to find their purpose and calling, but feel a little put off that it just doesn't fit within those walls and a little unconfident to walk outside of the walls. And so what we do is kind of encourage those women to step outside of the four walls. So when we find women who feel like there's a higher calling on their life and they know that it's outside of the four walls and it falls into that business ministry nonprofit trajectory, that's the people that we specifically target. We also specifically look for that 0 to 3 year entrepreneur because I believe when we have experience, that's the experience that we lean into to turn around and help the next person. And so, having been a new entrepreneur, having not come exactly from a corporate perspective down, but from that ground level, I knew that was the type of person that I needed to come alongside and help. And so when we get into conversations with people, we really vet them by asking them what is their plan? What is their dream? What have they done to already prepare for that pathway that they need to be on? And what is it that they think they're missing? And so a lot of those answers that fall out when it comes to confidence or strategy or sustainability, when we know that those are the missing pieces for them, we know we've got our perfect person to work with.
Well, that's really incredible. And I really would love for you to talk to us about, because you now have a for-profit and a nonprofit business. So what's the difference for you, and how do you support people in understanding which route they want to take? Do they want to go for profit or do they want to go nonprofit?
So for the for-profit, for me, it's really my own individual coaching practice. That's something where you're definitely exchanging your time in order to gain a profitable living. And so for those people, if you're really looking along those paths that you really just want to exchange some services so that you have a living that you're living off of while making an impact, for-profit is probably your sway. But if you're looking to do something that's more community and or globally impactful, if you're looking for something that really needs a whole network to come around it, that's really starting to fall into the nonprofit world where you really need to network out and you need to gain financial resources and expertise from other people to build things bigger. And so nonprofit work works better for that. And it becomes more of that local community all the way up to global community impact that you're looking to do. It's your give back moment. It's not that you don't give back sometimes in your for profit, but you're actually exchanging something for something and giving back out of your resources. Where in nonprofit work, it is a true one-on-one give back. And so delineating those needs, delineating your audience and why you're doing it will help us fall out whether you really need a for-profit or a nonprofit or that collaboration of both.
Yes. And let me just say this, I'm on the board of a couple of nonprofits. And if you're thinking about a nonprofit, I mean, think about the fact that you have to be a great fundraiser or you have to call in great fundraisers to help you deliver that gift. And if you're going to be for profit, then you still got to find a way to make money and invest to become visible. So I want to go back a little bit that we were just talking about. So all this stuff is crumbling in your life, and you're having to, I'm assuming, be the strong person in the midst of all of this. Talk to me about your faith and the action that you had to take at the same time.
Yeah, faith walk is not for the weak of heart. That's for sure, right? So I really believe that one of the things that happened is, and a lot of people experience this, is that I came to that crossroads of where would I lean into my faith or will I pull back and turn away from it? And this is a pivotal moment in our lives. And so I chose to lean in to my faith. And I chose to see the good things in the bigger bad things. And so I just learned that by taking small baby steps, that God would lead me back into the path that He wanted to direct me in. And so in the midst of my pain and my hurt, I found that the quickest way out of those situations is to give back to others, to not stay self-focused on what is happening, but to project out. And so I went and did small things like fold up worship folders at my church on a volunteer basis just to get out of the house and feel like I was doing something effective, until I got to the point where I was leading small groups in my church, that I was doing other kinds of volunteer work, until God opened up that path back down the career, so that it gave me some income, and then till He gave me this bigger vision that I've walked into now. So I really think in those times where we hit trouble, if we turn it in and we internalize it and we stay there, we stay trapped. But when you can turn it out and you can go and help another, your pain will end sooner than if you try to do it the other way. And so my faith gives me hope, and hope told me if I would do that, then I would see the light at the end of the tunnel. And indeed I did, and what a brilliant light it turned into.
Yes, well, and that's so beautiful, because being in service takes you out of your mind, spinning and going down rabbit holes. Well, you do events, and I, your first event, did you know what you were doing?
Not a clue. I just knew I needed to do it. And so it was a beautiful mesh that I had some leadership on a lower level in my church. Like I said, I was leading small groups. I had a network of women, and I said, "Hey, I have this crazy idea to do this conference." And they all got excited. And so we gathered at a table one evening and I cast the vision. And I think that's when I first got the sight that, oh, I am kind of more of a leader than I thought, because leaders are vision casters. And I have some influence because, John Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And so I wielded that influence, excited the crowd, got their buy-in and their thoughts. And we created this beautiful platform that we came out with in 2019 called the She Steps Forward Conference. And that's what really started it all. We had about 50 or 60 women come out. That's when we had this God wink of our visitor from Kenya that found us. And let me tell you, I have no idea. It was a divine connection. I did no marketing, no real marketing. Like, I don't even know how she found it, except that I simply had a website on the internet. And so, yeah, you kind of have to you kind of have to push back the fear. You have to make that step forward, and somehow the crooked path becomes straight.
Yes, and that's so beautiful. I had a women's conference until the pandemic came in and kind of shut everything down. But I want you to talk about the not just the creation, but the delivering of a conference, because it takes a team. You don't do it by yourself.
Well, let me just say from the get-go, that conference was a product of 2 years of networking. I don't think people estimate the amount of networking that has to go into something like that. And so I started talking to this particular team of ladies in 2018 about the conference, but even a year earlier, I had been out in my community. I had touch points with people I thought had similar interest in me. And there was a lot of collaboration that had to go on. And once I put that work in, what happened at the end of those 2 years is we had a conference in which we had 5 main session speakers, 6 breakout session workshops. We had 4 area church bands members that came in and played music for us. We had 15 women vendors. We had 3 other women's organizations that we poured into that weekend for our give back. What a beautiful thing to see it all come together, but it was a lot of work, and you just have to put the work in and move forward, and you have to, as you say, have that team around you. So community, community, community. When you get ready to do something like this, make sure you have built your community.
Yes. And so tell me about the transition now, because you're doing this where you live, but now you're creating something in Kenya. Tell me about that. Any walls, any challenges, any.
Sure. So, when our visitor came from Kenya, that was what was so sweet. She happened to be a co-pastor with her husband of a small congregation in Kenya pre-pandemic. And she asked me to come to Nairobi. And so we planned it out with our wonderful technology we have. And when I touched down in February of 2020, I had 60 ladies representing 5 different countries in Africa that were hungry to learn about She Steps Forward into Destiny, because destiny is a big word in Africa. And what I learned in my experience in going there is that the trajectory of female entrepreneurship is on the rise. And because Kenya itself is largely a Christian country, 85% of them are Christian. The 2 pathways were right there at the intersection. Women there have a real need to have some kind of skill or business to pull them out of the poverty that they're in. There is a lot of patriarchy still in Africa, and so they're dependent on fathers and husbands and brothers to take care of them. But yet, along the way, sometimes they get left, and they get left with children in tow. And so they need to be able to self support themselves. Now, culturally, that's some of the things that we are facing is teaching these women to be brave, to be independent, to be confident, giving them those leadership and business skills that they need to establish those small businesses that will bring them out of their poverty. But more than anything, they are hungry for this. And so, what we need right now is an influx of finances, which is what we're working on to make this a bigger foothold. We've had great collaboration and connections that are starting to come into play, and we're excited that we are on a path to set up a sustainable program in Kenya that will be able to mimic what we're trying to do here in the United States. But here's the key. When you go to another country, don't go as an American trying to bring your American ways. Go in and learn their culture. We want to do this the Kenyan way. And so we're taking the time to establish that full footprint so that we understand culturally how they see entrepreneurship, culturally how they see leadership, and culturally how they see faith. And that is our biggest thing, slowing down long enough to hear them and to see them and validate them as beautiful, innovative people here on the planet. And we're so excited to learn from them as much as we teach.
Well, this is so incredible because then you teach them to fish, you teach them to create, right? So, how do people find you? How do they find your services?
So right now you can go to shestepsforwardinternational.org. That's our nonprofit piece. And within just a few weeks, you'll be able to find me at shestepsforwardcoaching.com, which will be my for-profit piece listing all of my coaching services.
Okay, say the nonprofit one more time for the people that
Sure.
are listening.
Sure. The nonprofit is shestepsforwardinternational.org.
Perfect. Well, this is so incredible what you're doing and what you're doing to inspire women to step into their power. The name of this show is Women Awakening. And so I ask the same last question of every guest. What do you think is the most important thing about women awakening at this moment?
I think that we are on the cuff of seeing women leadership and women empowerment go to a level we have not seen before. And I want women out there to know you are full of purpose. You are full of things that need to be birthed. And there are women that are ready to assist you in that process. So we hope what you will do is you will lean into that inner calling that you know you have inside. Be bold enough to step forward and allow someone to help you along your path so that your dream becomes a reality.
Well, I'm so grateful that you've come to the show, that you have such a beautiful vision and articulated so well and so passionate about supporting women. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, ladies, I end the show the same way with different words. I love what Elaine said. Leaders are vision casters. And this is what I want you to know. You are a leader. So, what's the vision you want to cast? What's the difference you want to make? How do you want to touch people and support your community and the world at large? You're here for a reason. It's important. You're divinely guided if you can trust it. And so I just give thanks. I'm so grateful that I get to be with you. And I hope you'll come back and meet another incredible woman. Many blessings.